Hello and welcome back to the Ultimate Fighting Casuals. I'm Tom.
And I'm Jack.
And this week we're going to be looking at Kevin Holland versus Derek Brunson in the Fight Night Vegas coming up. And to be honest, Kevin Holland is on absolute fire. Derek Brunson on good form as well. Do you want to sort of talk about
mate. I mean, Brunson's on a 3-fight win streak. Holland's on a 5-fight win streak. We all saw how his 2020 went down. It was absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I think it was the winningest and the most fights in that year in general, I think it was.
I'm
pretty sure he's at the top.
It was 5 fights in 7 months that he won, though, and that is just outrageous.
That's just ludicrous,
in
man.
In the UFC.
Yeah. I mean, no one does that. Just unheard of. It's incredible. And fair play to Kevin Holland for being that dedicated and for working that hard. He truly deserves to be there. I mean, I actually can't believe he's still ranked 10th. I know we looked at the rankings and we want to do a video on this. I know we've spoken about it.
Absolutely.
Like, UFC rankings seem to be a bit weird, but ranked 10th, Brunson at 7. I think it's actually a really solid fight. So Brunson on a 3-fight win streak. His last loss was only against Izzy in 2019, I believe. So we're looking at like a really good fight here. I think that this is quite evenly matched to me. What about you?
Absolutely. I think that Brunson is seen as the gateway to this division. Kevin Holland said in an interview with Joe Rogan that, well, you're not Brunson out, you're a top guy in the division, right? So that's what he's seeing this fight as. It's a step to get in the elite and get in the conversation of the Darren Tills, the Adesanyas, the Rob Whittakers.
And I feel like he needs to be there. I feel like he needs to get to. Sorry, I feel like he needs to get this fight out of the way to get to that point. I think that Kevin Holland isn't looking at a title fight right now. I don't think he's sort of at that level. I think he could be there and he has 100%. The potential. We can all clearly see that, right? But I think that, if we're all being honest, he needs another fight right now. Brunson is a massive victory in itself for Holland right now.
Well, he hasn't done it yet.
Exactly.
And this is the thing, Brunson can really
right.
play upset. Look at his last fight against Shabazian, who was an undefeated fighter, coming off a lot of hype, and he derailed that train for him. So it's not a foregone conclusion for Holland.
I completely agree, mate.
Look, we saw in his last fight against Jacare that he's more than capable against somebody who knows what they're doing inside the UFC. So I don't think the experience of Brunson is actually going to play too much of a role. I think Holland knows what he's doing, and he's got a lot of fights on his record. But ultimately, Holland, I think, is actually a cut above. This is just a case of levels to the game, and we're just seeing Kevin Holland start to peak or whatever. Why now? We don't know, but thank you. We're absolutely seeing a masterpiece from Kevin Holland. And where he goes next,
I think it's the title, mate. I think that's where we actually see Holland eventually get. I mean, there's a little bit more of a conversation here to have with the division in general, where we actually can see it go. But everything you just said about Holland there was absolutely spot on. I do think it's key that he remembers, obviously, there is still Brunson to get through. Absolutely. He's a really, really, really class fighter. But Kevin Holland has a mental thing for me. That's sort of, when I look at a fight, especially interviewing and stuff like that, when you see him chat and how they actually are as a person, how they carry themselves, I look at Holland as that much more of a fighter, that cut above, like you said, that where there's levels to this game.
Absolutely.
And for me, I'm rooting for Holland here. I hope he wins. I'm going to look for a Kevin Holland win here. I think he's going to go for a knockout as well. Brunson isn't a knockout artist or anything like that. He typically takes it to decisions, as his last 3 fights have been. Absolutely. So I personally see Holland taking this away with a W here, and I hope he does. What about you, mate?
Absolutely. I think Brunson is really going to try and work Holland and grind on him, but, he can knock you out off his bottom like he did against Jacare. So it's not really relevant. I think the wrestling isn't going to come into it as much. Holland's jiu-jitsu is ridiculous, and I think striking-wise he's going to outclass him. So I'd look for Holland to do it within 3, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it this weekend.
So this week we saw a lot of build-up for Till versus Vittori, or I certainly have all over Instagram. 100%. The posters came out. I'm super excited. It's about 3 weeks away, right?
100%, yeah, 3 weeks.
And mate, I cannot wait to see Darren Till fight again. Not only just for him to fight in general, but what this could mean for him in general. It's massive for Till. I feel like he really has to go on to win this fight. I feel like a few of his performances here and there haven't been exactly where I'd want him to be, or where he probably thinks he should be as well. I think Vittori's a super, super tough opponent. What do you think, mate?
Absolutely. Vittori really well-rounded and actually has given Izzy his best fight to date. So I think Till is against no mug. We know that, right? But what is he going to do coming off his last performance against Whittaker? It was a very close split decision and he tore his knee in half. So I think he doesn't actually take too much negativity away from that, and I think he's right to. He looked really good, obviously dropped him with a stepping elbow in the first round. So I think there are things he can take from that going against the division's elite. Vittori, I don't think is that, so I think we will see him prevail, but he will get worked, and Vittori is no mug, as I say.
Yeah, I mean, Vittori has a really good mentality as well. I mean, I don't just take it just from Instagram, but just sort of the way he carries himself. His whole dream is to be the first Italian champion of the UFC. He really runs with that. He really, really believes in himself. And like I said, I know it doesn't mean a lot once you're in there, but yeah, it means a lot to see that a fight has spirit, right?
100%.
And I think that Vittori versus, I think Till's like really laid back. You saw sort of some banter back and forth between him and Vittori, like being like, I want to take your soul, and Till being like, relax,
chill,
man, like,
we'll
chill
get
out.
in there and we'll punch each other in the face and we'll see what happens.
And that's what I like from Till, though, because you
100%.
know that Till ain't no pushover. He's not scared. Till's not scared. He don't give a shit. Like,
well, we say he's not scared.
Right, this is what I wanted to talk about. That is exact, mate. It's spot. You're going to talk about Gastelum, aren't you?
Well,
when he got in the
Gastelum
ring and he was
fight,
petrified and he was like really scared. Right, that's what I was going to lead to after you said about Whittaker. I feel like he had that Gastelum fight, right, and he was so scared and all that stuff, and went away and works a lot. And like you said, you don't take too many negatives away from the Whittaker fight.
No.
Because he came from where he was before the Gastelum fight. It was a close decision, and Whittaker is literally the elite of that division, along with Izzy, right?
100%.
So I think that Till, we're looking at a really an upward trajectory for him right now. I think that, again, you don't take anything away from that Whittaker fight. It's still an upward trajectory from where he was with Kelvin. And I think that Till can honestly go on to win this after looking at more Muay Thai stuff that he can do. Like, he looks incredible. I'm really behind Till right now. I seriously hope he can bring it home for us. So some more news in the middleweight division this week. We've got Kelvin Gastelum versus Robert Whittaker now officially confirmed. I think that is going to be at the end of April, right? Or like middle to the end of April. Unfortunately, Costa's had to pull out of that due to illness. Obviously, not that he's going to be like ill in like 6 weeks, but obviously he's ill right now. It means he can't train, can't get in the right shape. That's what's come out anyway. I'm glad they're not delaying the fight. Costa did say he wanted it around like May 8th or 1st. There's a card around that time. He said he wanted that. They've delayed it. I think there's a few more stuff there. What do you like want to see from that, Moz?
Yeah, I think obviously Whittaker Gastelum is a good fight for the division. Gastelum coming off a win doesn't make the most sense, but ultimately what I want to see from Costa, because he's the most interesting guy for me in the division right now, coming off that loss to Izzy and actually not seeming to take that loss as well as maybe other fighters have in the past. You see fighters like Conor McGregor, who are all chest out and strut, come out and say, actually, I was beaten, that was the better man on the night, and they go away and make the improvements. Costa hasn't come out and said that. All he's done is make excuses about his loss to Adesanya. So what I actually really want to see is somebody who had to learn that lesson, really humbled himself and brought his mentality up in Jared Cannonier, somebody who's been all across the UFC in so many different divisions, but ultimately is a killer. Whittaker managed the dispatch of him last time, but Costa, if you think that you are going to challenge for the belt, mate, you need Whittaker or you need Cannonier as a win to get out the belt straight away, because you're in trouble.
So Gastelum is the one that's ended up with a fight versus Whittaker here. I think that's really great for him. I really like him as a person, don't get it wrong. He's a great fighter and I'm really happy for him to get that shot because it's a massive fight for him, right? However, I just do not feel that he deserves that fight. I feel like he was on a 3-fight losing streak. He came back and won a decision. He did win the fight, that's completely fair enough. But just look where the division is in general. This is just another fight for Whittaker to run over. It's just another one that's going to flatten the division out and another one that's going to make the Whittaker-Izzy thing just talked about more. Ultimately, I think Costa and Whittaker was the perfect fight. I was super, super happy with that because Costa was coming off the back end of that Izzy thing. He had someone great who he could come up against and fight and potentially win to prove himself at that title level again. But no, it's now not happening. So what do we want to see? The Cannonier fight, it absolutely would be great to happen. I think that's like the next best available person. I think we could see a potential winner of this weekend fighting Costa. Or fighting someone of that level as well, because
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't be surprised either, mate. Because look, Costa also now is going to look at this as an opportunity. Look, yes, of course he wants to fight the best in the world, but he will look at this as an opportunity to get a win on his record that isn't fighting those two top dogs, and it will put him in that third spot. I think that's massive for him, mate.
And I think if Holland can do it, and coming off the absolute hype train that he is, we talked about it with Hamzat Chimaev, Leon Edwards, when that was in the mix of can he capitalise off of that win, off of that monumental rise and the buff that the UFC is putting behind him, right? So it's massive for Costa, it's massive for Holland. There are big players. I'd like to see how it plays. So we've talked about middleweight and done some theory crafting, fight crafting for the coming weeks. But just to touch on the card coming up this weekend, because there's some really good fighters I'd like you to keep an eye out for. One, Max Payne Griffin in welterweight. Really good fucking, like, just scraps, mate. Just knocking somebody out and always entertaining. Tai Tuivasa is coming back, who is a personal favourite of mine, loves a shoey and often produces a good knockout.
That's who you sent me the video. That guy seems really cool. Just as a personality, I'm not even going to pretend I've watched a lot of his fighters, but as a pure personality, I want that guy to win, man.
Absolutely. He's not going to be the heavyweight champion, but he's a lot of fun to watch. He's, you know, he's
an Australian guy, man. They're fun as fuck, and that shows in the octagon, I feel like.
100%. And then it's Gregor Gillespie coming back. So he was on a 6-fight win streak in the UFC's shark-infested lightweight division. Got knocked knocked out by Kevin Lee in 2019 and is coming back against Brad Riddell, who's on a 2-fight win streak, undefeated in the UFC. He's 9-1 in total, but yeah, should be a good scrap as the co-main. But ultimately, Kevin Holland, Derek Brunson is the one to watch.
Mate, that is the absolute one to watch. Keep an eye on that shit for sure. I think it's going to be a banger. I think it's going to be one of those ones that slips under the radar, and it means a lot to the division. It genuinely does. I mean, like I said, we've got Vittori coming up. We've got the Whittaker fight not long after that. The next 6 weeks, we're really going to see a lot change within that 185 division and see a lot of things move about. So, absolutely. Okay, that is the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate all the support. However, 2 views, 10 views. Some of the stuff is getting a bit lower. It doesn't matter though. We're going to keep producing content. That's what it's all about. Thank you for being behind us. There are likes, there are comments, there's views. We genuinely appreciate it. So be sure to keep giving us all that support. It means the world. But is there anything from you at all, Moz?
Keep going on the Instagram, follow, keep liking. As I say, we really appreciate it. We're passionate. So yeah, keep watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Get on the link down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.